Hello, and welcome to the IT Chronicles 10 in Tech. We're here live from Refresh 19 in Vegas. Carlos Casanova is my fellow interviewer, and our interviewee this afternoon is Simone Jo Moore. And you're here to talk to us a little bit more about the human volatility and emotional intelligence. And you know what? After this day, I think I might need it.
Really?
Yeah.
What happened today?
I've just been doing these interviews all day long, having to work
She's
with
been
Carlos.
dealing with me. That's really the problem.
Exactly. I mean, did you feel that there was a need for some emotional understanding there? And
There's always a need for emotional understanding. So tell us a little bit. You did a presentation today on emotional intelligence,
Yes.
or lack thereof.
Or
Tell us.
being emotional, an intelligent choice.
So tell us a little bit about that presentation.
Well, I found it really fascinating that through all the stuff that we do in technology, etc., and there's a lot of talk now about artificial intelligence and reading customers' emotions, and we've always had that topic going. It's just that it hasn't had that global recognition before. And earlier this year in Davos World Economic Forum, they had all their big meetings, and huge amount of information came out of that, and some great future ideas and talks. They had a future of jobs report, and part of that was looking at what are the top 10 skill sets, and in that was included emotional intelligence, as well as leadership and social influence. Now, all of this is part of just being very human. And with all the technology happening with our digital transformation and that era that we're moving into and working so fast now, a lot of the human side of it is getting lost. And they think, yeah, we'll just plug in the facial features, that'll be great. But it's, look at all the movies that have the wonderful things around artificial intelligence, the robots, and they're all going to have this emotional connection with us, but it just isn't quite there. And I think because we've lost that ability in many ways, and a lot of people are not learning the skills and the competencies around emotional intelligence, how are we going to design it for the human interaction?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, right? So, as we talk about it in everyday life, how people are so, because of a lot of social stuff, there's sort of this anonymity, and people are comfortable making comments or not making comments or doing things that they would never do in person. But yet now we're saying, hey, we're going to jump over that, and we're going to have technology do it.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because I think we all recognize it needs to be there. We need to mature in that space, but if we're not, as a society, maybe as equipped as maybe we used to be, but now we're the ones that are going to be actually designing this, it is a little worrisome, to where we're going to go with that. So, what was the response? I mean, when you're, talking to people about
Well, I mean, if I'm to go by afterwards, when people come up to ask questions, or can I have the slides, or can I have your card? There were a lot. So it's obviously pushed some buttons, and it's certainly hit the right spots for a lot of people. And the good thing about, this was, if you like, an introduction around emotional intelligence. So it wasn't just talking about the frameworks, but really getting into what are the different tools that are available. And I'm not talking technology when I mean the tools. What are the different techniques that we can use? And there's a lot of different things out there, so there's some good stuff for them to explore. And I think that's been the best bit about it, is that they have the inspiration, they have the wherewithal and the excitement, I guess, or the intrigue. I think curiosity is one of the best things we have going for us in today's age.
So we can't use AI for that kind of thing, or ML for the intrigue?
So much, so much. I think there's a lot of really good companies out there that are doing some really interesting work around the EI of AI, if you like, and where they're doing facial capturing. There's one particular company, they were a spin-off from MIT, and they developed a software development kit, but they captured something, over 3 million frames of faces across 87 countries, multiple genders, ages, and all the cultural influences that go with that. And they're still building that. And they're now, rather than doing it themselves, they're partnering with all these technology companies to see how this can be used. So, for example, driverless cars. If the driver's starting to get tired, the system might be able to recognize that, even to the extent of automating where they might even just turn off the engine. but the alarms and things. So there's fascinating things, even in voice. So one particular, another company is working on how we have emotions through our voices, because our voices are unique prints, just like our fingerprints. That's why we have the wonderful security stuff we can do with our voice. But the same thing happens with emotions. So imagine that you're a service desk, on the service desk, and you're on the phone with a customer, that you have this application that can recognize the tonal change in a customer's voice. You receive some kind of emoji alert or something.
Starting to go off the edge.
Exactly, about how it's happening. And then all of a sudden you've got the confidence to start to understand and know what's the appropriate response to use with this person in the next few seconds. So there's lots of applications that can be used in our world of support as well.
And I think empathy. And I think that's like that's just one thing, is just empathy, to acknowledge when a customer is calling in or somebody needs support, is to be empathetic that there's an actual issue. And I know a lot of times when I give feedback, it's like, how was it? It's like, well, the agent lacked empathy, right? So it's just like, I understand you have a queue full of calls to go through, but to have empathy and try to empower the customer, solve their problems and be empathetic to it as well.
The genuineness of it. I mean, especially when you get to that, I'm going to give you to my supervisor, and then by that third escalation, that person coming on sure better understand that I'm probably not in the best of moods at that point. That's just by default.
But even as a manager, we should too. That self-awareness, not just to the agent, but the way in which we show ourselves. It's no longer, walk through the door and drop everything, whatever was going on, because you actually deny the whole person. If you're going to deny someone's emotions, you lose the full potential of what that human being can be within your team.
Exactly.
And
let's be honest, for some people, that is their strongest skill, right? I mean, the one that can talk you off the ledge, instead of, like you're ready to scream and someone, for whatever reason, you hear something in their voice and their tone or whatnot, and you're ready to like scream at them like, okay, what's going on with this? But for whatever reason, how they responded, not the words they used, because, hearing like, oh, we're sorry for how long this has taken you. That's doing nothing for me.
And that's just the day-to-day stuff.
Right.
There's all the collaboration work in projects. And, I mean, even in the opening keynote this morning for Refresh, they're talking about that, the way vendors need to be, a friend. A friend to your customer, a customer for life. And this means that the different styles of engagement, and one of the ones I found really fascinating, not just the collaboration one, was the contextual engagement they talked about, because that takes emotional intelligence. What's the context in which they exist and they work and they move? I always look at 3 interaction points. There's, people to process, there's that side of things, people to technology, but then there's the people to people. And so from my perspective, there's the common denominator there is always the people. So that's what we need to look on when it comes to the engagement. Yeah,
it's just crazy. Like I said, and I always think, obviously I think we always go to the extreme ones, those extreme experiences that we had where it was going off the rails, and you're almost, I mean, I know I'm looking for someone to talk me back. Just give me a reason to not be mad. There's enough things in life to get upset about. Give me something to like, okay, you know what, fine, you're doing your best. I get it, it's out of your control. And how many times do you say, look, I know it's not you, Simone. You're just and I don't want to take it out on you, but brace yourself.
This is how I'm feeling, Well, those are what we call emotional hijacks. And they can last anywhere, up to 18 minutes. And that's where if you like, your primal brain has kicked in. Your crocodile brain has just gone, okay, I'm going to snap now. And that's just the way it's going to happen.
True.
But there are techniques and things that we don't teach our people these things, and we need to. So there's lots of cool stuff out there. It only takes a short time to learn some of the small techniques and then explore it further. But we need our leaders to be doing this as well. I mean, you can have your yoga, you can have your massages.
They're busy ignoring other things.
Yeah, which I absolutely adore that. But as another great friend of ours, Karen Ferris, and the great work she does in OCM and her Unleash the Resiliator, and she said, if we want to build this resilience, it's not enough just to have things like the yoga and that kind of thing. It's good, it's just not enough.
And I guess we'll leave it on that note. So no more crying, no more making people cry. Thanks, Simone, for joining us. Glad
Thanks
that
so
you're
much
such
for
a-
having me.
Thank you again.